One woman's life turned into a chaotic mashup of grit, loneliness, and incredible fortitude while hidden deep in Alaska's freezing quiet. She has faced more than just bears and blizzards, yet it isn't the most shocking thing, oddly. Life Below Zero fans believe they've seen it all. What if, however, the cameras only suggested one aspect of Sue Aikens? Her narrative is more than simply survival, from the first startling turn in her early years to something that continues to captivate audiences. It's about decisions, wounds, and an almost life-altering event. What actually took place out there then? What aspect of her trip is rarely discussed by even her most ardent admirers? Let's travel to the place where the road ends and the truth lies dormant. Alaskan abandonment. The birthplace of Sue Aikens is Mount Prospect, Illinois. When her parents separated in the late 1960s or early 1970s, her early years took a drastic turn. When Sue was just 12 years old, her mother gave her a paper bag and told her they were relocating to Alaska. This sudden change signaled the start of a life full of obstacles and perseverance. After a while, Sue's mother abandoned her to fend for herself in the hostile Alaskan tundra. Sue was forced to acquire survival skills, resourcefulness, and mental fortitude well beyond her years as a result of her abandonment. Sue soon learned to adjust to the harsh surroundings after being left on her own. She was given a gun by a local Alaskan, who also suggested that she learn to hunt in order to live. The foundation for her lifetime bond with the outdoors was laid by this crucial event. Sue accepted the difficulties of Alaskan life, from hunting and fishing to dealing with harsh weather. She developed the resiliency, independence, and survival abilities that characterize her now throughout these early years. Even though Sue suffered greatly, the Alaskan wilderness experience was both a hardship and a teaching opportunity. She was introduced to harsh weather, unruly animals, and the loneliness that results from living so far from the institutions of society. Her inner strength, which eventually became the core of Sue, was refined by each encounter. She gained abilities throughout that period that served as the foundation for her future, developing not just as a survivor, but also as a person who thrived in one of the most hostile situations on the planet. In addition to influencing her reaction, which was scared, her connections with those events also helped to shape her relationship with nature and the difficult life she would have as an adult. Her tenacity and drive are demonstrated by the fact that a little girl who was abandoned in the bush went on to become one of the most well-known survivalists and TV personalities. These early life struggles served as the basis for her subsequent pursuits, including her appearance on the National Geographic program Life Below Zero, in which she frequently shares her existence with viewers worldwide, but with a twist. However, overcoming seclusion was just the first step. There was something far more sinister lurking in the darkness. Bear attack survival story. Sue Aikens had one of the worst experiences of her life in 2007, when a grizzly bear viciously attacked her close to her house at Kavik River Camp. Sue had to temporarily put down her rifle to run a water pump while doing a daily task, drawing water from a nearby river. A young male grizzly bear that had been observed burying caribou carcasses nearby attacked violently during that brief period of vulnerability. The bear was exercising what is called an alpha push, a behavior in which a younger bear attempts to establish authority, as Aikens subsequently explained. Before vanishing into the brush, the beast savagely threw her around like a rag doll and attacked at her, biting into her head. Sue suffered severe injuries from the incident, including serious cuts to her head and upper torso. Few individuals could have done what Aikens did, in spite of the terrible shock and agonizing anguish. Back in camp, she dragged herself. After examining the bleeding from her head and arms, and seeing that her hips had been dislocated, she used a pistol belt as an improvised support harness to steady herself. Amazingly, she even used a simple first aid kit she already had on hand to suture her own wounds. Sue seized her firearm, followed the bear's scent, and shot it dead because she would not allow it to continue to threaten her. Her determination, driven by adrenaline, was not only impressive, but also essential. Her injuries, regrettably, were far from being healed. Once she had neutralized the bear, her hips failed her once more on the journey back to camp. Her physical and mental fortitude were put to the limit as she had to crawl the remaining distance, inch by inch, over the Alaskan tundra with no one else in sight. However, Sue's attempts to seek aid at Kavik River Camp, more than 190 miles from the closest town, through her air-to-ground radio transmissions and repeated distress requests for a nearby pilot or law enforcement, were unsuccessful. She had been forced to 10 excruciating days of complete isolation and immobility due to the impact of poor weather and the distance from any human being. She suffered from both internal and exterior damage. Neither food nor medical support were provided. Eventually, a pilot buddy was forced to fly over the region to look into the strange radio silence and lack of movement. He made arrangements for the fastest medical evacuation feasible after discovering her in a critical state. The reality of what she went through during those 10 days of agony, terror, and total loneliness was not lessened, even if the delay in rescue spared her life. By going back to the exact nature that almost killed her, she has even gone beyond this. After a lengthy course of treatment and surviving a near-death experience, Sue Aikens returned to the area of the forest that had almost consumed her life. Her skull has indentations that serve as tangible memories of the day the bear entered, but she views this as a natural part of life rather than a limitation. She demonstrated her courage and integrity by running Kavik River Camp while living in seclusion and then sharing her story on Life Below Zero. Her story is still a startling account of survival and a powerful illustration of unwavering perseverance, fortitude, and refusal to let one's anxieties to rule one's life. Even if it occasionally tries to kill her, Sue stated that living off the earth comforts her spirit, become well known on Life Below Zero. When National Geographic producers invited Sue Aikens to feature in a new survival-based documentary series called Life Below Zero in 2013, she became well known across the country. She was already operating Kavik River Camp, a distant base camp located 197 miles north of the Arctic Circle, in the vast tundra of Alaska at the time. The producers were drawn to her unusual way of life, which was characterized by total seclusion, independence, and a strong bond with the earth. The show's idea was to document the lives of those who were enduring Alaska's most extreme circumstances, and that vision was aptly reflected in Sue's narrative. Her home was so far away that latitude and longitude, rather than a conventional street address, were required to identify it, highlighting her exceptional freedom. Because of its honest depiction of Arctic life, Life Below Zero immediately won praise from critics and a large audience. Sue's raw personality, tenacity, and survivalist expertise made her portions particularly memorable. Her everyday activities, hunting, fishing, equipment maintenance, and braving below freezing weather captivated viewers, frequently carried out in utter seclusion. Because of her abilities as well as her charm, humor, and open storytelling, she rose to prominence and became one of the show's most adored characters. She stood out on television because of her capacity to face hardship with humor and resilience. She has stated in interviews that the lifestyle shown in Life Below Zero isn't only for television, it makes her feel good, and it was something she wouldn't exchange for anything else. Beyond the camera, this is a victory. With more chances brought about by her increased television presence, Sue eventually turned into an entrepreneur and expanded Kavik River Camp to new heights. Today, adventurers, photographers, and seasonal visitors who wish to experience Alaska's wilderness come to our camp. The tourist camp is a significant source of revenue, operating for around 3 months of the year and charging an average of $350 per night. She shares survival techniques as a public speaker and has written many books based on her experiences, establishing her market persona as much a survivalist as an entrepreneur is, in fact, a branding exercise. Sue has always upheld religious decorum with her audience, thus these values are still relevant today. The bitterness and pleasure of merely facing one's own nature are the subjects of her parts. One must still live in solitary confinement with their own species, despite the presence of predators and storms. She has now been one of the cast's final original members for almost 10 years. In this kind of series, they just don't remain that long. According to recent estimates, she makes around $4,500 every episode, placing her among the top-paid individuals. Her estimated net worth ranges from $500,000 to $2 million. This riches was made possible by earnings from speaker programs, television contracts, and tourism-related revenue. Sue, on the other hand, leads a humble and economical life, reducing her spending to a minimum and remaining near the countryside that shaped her. She becomes an iconic figure in survival and self-sufficiency as a result of the narrative, which continues to resonate with audiences throughout the globe. And meeting with Wolverine that is dangerous. Sue Aikens found herself in a dangerous predicament when a renegade Wolverine started pursuing her camp near the Kavik River in the Season 8 opener of Life Below Zero, The Confrontation, which aired on October 18, 2016. Sue acted swiftly to defend herself and her camp after realizing the danger the hostile predator offered. With her rifle in hand, she set out to find and kill the Wolverine, demonstrating her in-depth knowledge of the Alaskan tundra and its perils. Because of its fierceness and persistence in the face of danger, or when pursuing food, Wolverines are feared. In this episode, Sue used her tracking skills in conjunction with her understanding of animal behavior to trace the creature across the desolate terrain. Sue's ability to maintain composure and concentration in the face of such pressure was critical to both her own safety and the safety of her camp. The event served as a reminder that one had to be on guard at all times when in isolated and hostile environments. Sue's encounter with the Wolverine served as a sobering reminder that being prepared is essential in the outdoors since it may be unpredictable. Her reputation as a proficient survivor was further cemented by these circumstances, which also served to protect her immediate surroundings. Living off the grid in Alaska has presented Sue with several challenges, of which her experience with the Wolverine is only one. Viewers are continually inspired by her extraordinary energy and flexibility, which provide them with a glimpse of what it's like to live in one of the world's most isolated regions. Her efforts raise awareness among viewers of what is truly required to survive in such harsh circumstances. Action against creators of Life Below Zero. Sue Aikens filed a lawsuit against the show's creators, Aaron Melman and BBC Worldwide Reality Productions, in February 2017. The lawsuit was brought in the United States District Court in Anchorage, Alaska, was prompted by an event that happened in February 2015 when Season 5 was being filmed. Despite voicing worries about the risk, Aikens said she was forced to carry out a dangerous stunt in which she drove a snow machine into an overflow area on a frozen river. This order caused a serious collision that left several people seriously hurt. The complaint argued that the filmmakers delayed medical treatment to film her in distress because they were more concerned with getting dramatic video than with ensuring her safety. According to the lawsuit, Aikens had many operations as a result of his injuries from the collision, which included shattered bones and persistent discomfort. She said that in order to film her walking in agony, the production crew took away her winter clothing after the accident, leaving her exposed to below-freezing conditions. They also postponed the medical evacuation. Aikens claims that these acts caused her emotional anguish, in addition to aggravating her physical wounds. According to the lawsuit, the producers violated their contracts by forcing her to engage in risky actions and fabricating the incidents to create a dramatic impact. Aikens said that both physically and emotionally, the producers had a significant impact on her capacity to earn a livelihood. Aikens was the camp manager and operator of Kavik River Camp, a remote outpost of Alaska, although she was unable to do so due to her injuries. The producers allegedly meddled in her business dealings, which might have jeopardized her leasing agreements and camp profitability, according to the complaint. Aikens also claimed that the filmmakers had subtly misrepresented her by portraying her as unstable. Unspecified damages and a jury trial were sought in the claim. However, there is no information in the public archives on how the court processes turned out. However, Aikens returned to her work on Life Below Zero during the litigation, demonstrating remarkable fortitude and dedication to sharing her life in the Alaskan tundra. Her situation brought attention to the morality of reality television production, with particular attention paid to participant safety and realistic story weavings. Through reality television, it also raised awareness of the challenges experienced by those attempting to strike a balance between their personal lives and the demands of celebrity. Life within closed walls presented another type of tempest, just when you thought the wild had pushed her boundaries. The marriages of Sue Aikens. Similar to the difficulties she encounters on a daily basis in the Alaskan wilderness, Sue Aikens' marriage has been characterized by significant emotional ups and downs. Her life has become more complicated and sorrowful as a result of the endings of her 3 previous marriages. She became a widow early in life, when her first spouse sadly passed away from brain cancer. Eddie James Aikens, a British barber, was the subject of her second and most well-known marriage. After 17 years of marriage, the couple filed for divorce in 2004. Sue kept Eddie's last name even after their marriage ended, and she frequently mentioned their time together with respect. Unfortunately, Eddie died in 2009, which made Sue's personal history even more tragic. Sue's third marriage ended under sad circumstances and was short-lived. Reports and interviews claimed that her third spouse was unfaithful, which finally caused the marriage to end. Sue sarcastically described herself as a black widow at an unguarded moment during a pleasant conversation with actress Melissa McCarthy. This term highlighted both Sue's dark sense of humor and the tragic outcomes of each of her marriages. Sue seldom ever discusses the specifics of her third marriage, but it's clear that the betrayal she endured had an effect. When Sue began dating Michael G. Henrich, a journeyman electrician from New York, in 2018, she was still prepared to assert that joy and rejuvenation were possible despite the hurt of a broken relationship. Since Heinrich provided Sue with remote support while she was laboring in the Alaskan bush, their relationship was long distance. Although the two finally parted ways, she valued the support he provided her at that time, because it demonstrated her continuous faith in love and connection, in spite of the difficulties brought on by emotions and distance. Sue Aikens never views any of her relationships as long-term. Instead, she consistently chooses strength over victimization and dignity over brokenness. Her personality has shaped each phase of her romantic life, giving it the tenacity for which she is renowned in the public eye. Her readiness to discuss these past relationships, even if only briefly, gives viewers a unique and sympathetic look at the lady beneath the survivalist exterior. Personal tragedy. Sue Aikens talked candidly about a very personal tragedy, the death of her granddaughter Drew McClurg, in a touching moment that stood out even in the rough landscape of life below zero. A rare emotional side of the season's survivalist was seen to viewers during a season 21 episode, as she honored her late sister and her grandchild. Sue, who is well known for her toughness, self-reliance, and unwavering will in the face of Alaska's most extreme circumstances, showed remarkable sensitivity during the episode. It acted as a reminder that even the most resilient people have heavy emotional responsibilities. Sue has kept the specifics of Drew's death private, despite her decision to openly express her grief. It is known that Sue celebrated her 18th birthday on social media, referring to her granddaughter as a delight, and that Drew was still very little, and conveying the extent to which she filled her heart. In addition to honoring Drew, Sue's Instagram post from 2 years ago evoked the memories of her late ex-husband Eddie, implying that he is shining from above. This makes it a moving remembrance. Both Sue's voice and tone make it clear that she had a very close and significant relationship with Drew. Fans of Life Below Zero have responded favorably to the show's empathy for Sue. Viewers' prayers, sympathies and words of support poured in after Sue's latest Instagram posts. Many of her supporters remarked on how difficult it must have been to see someone so powerful shake. Some admirers even expressed mild concern about her future intentions, speculating that she might want to take it easy and prioritize her mental well-being. Even from a distance, others only reminded her that love was all around her. She has developed a close relationship with her audience over the years of sharing her life, and it was clear that this connection elicited very emotional reactions. Although the cause of Drew's death has not yet been revealed, it is evident that Sue has chosen to go through her own grieving process. Distance-induced loneliness might act as a catalyst in highlighting the mental anguish of such a loss. However, it was a brave and humane thing for Sue to bring this topic about her grandchild into the tale Below Zero. Sue has always been the embodiment of perseverance, despite having experienced severe injuries, emotional distress, and physical abuse. Weather survival at Kavik River Camp. Weather survival at Kavik River Camp is a full-time way of life, not merely a matter of staying warm. Sue Aikens Camp is one of the most isolated outposts in North America, situated almost 500 miles from Fairbanks, Alaska, and 15 miles from the Arctic Ocean. During the lengthy Arctic winters, temperatures can fall as low as -60 degrees Fahrenheit, and winds can reach above 60 millipi, or arere borer. As an illustration of how harsh and unexpected these circumstances can get, Aikens said nearly 17 feet of snow fell on her camp one night in a phone interview with Grind TV. Aikens thrives on the struggle and describes her lifestyle as severe solitude, which she not only tolerates, but also sincerely loves, despite the fact that these extremes could cause others to escape south. Critical maintenance and preparation can only be done during the brief summer season, which runs from June to September. Aikens welcomes hunters, biologists, and ecotourists who want to experience Alaska's wilderness during this short window of somewhat cooler weather. She still prioritizes survival, though she has to maintain her little airport, which is the only way to get supplies or evacuate people in an emergency, fix snow-worn buildings, and keep food and gasoline in reserve. Since there isn't any flowing water in Kavik, she also gathers water from the adjacent river. She often works alone and completes all tasks, including laundry, by hand. She emphasized the overwhelming amount of effort necessary simply to be functional in such circumstances by saying that there is always a list of things to accomplish. In the winter, when there is little sunlight, the Arctic rages. Aikens relies on a rigid daily schedule to survive because of snowstorms and the ongoing risk of ice accumulation. Inside her tent, she maintains an armory. In addition to protection from the far greater number of grizzlies than people in the region, she must react to any danger to her own safety, whether it comes from a human or a beast, with unwavering promptness in such isolation gear, as a winter supply failure might have fatal results. Despite the risks presented by the cold months, she discovers beauty. In order to rebuild her camp and be ready for the spring thaws both physically and spiritually, she would need to spend these gloomy days in solitude and do the soul-searching she enjoyed. The constantly shifting weather is another risk of living at the Kavik. With the closest neighbors so far away, there is little margin for error during Arctic storms, and the weather may shift suddenly. Her survival skills and intuition will determine whether or not any of this works out. The knowledge she has gained from years of adversity. Sue is always looking out over the horizon, adjusting the binoculars around her neck to watch wildlife or weather systems. In such a world, awareness and knowledge are your lifelines. Her perseverance, bravery, and unshakable love for the wild north have been the hallmarks of her survival season after season. "I stay here because this is where I want to live," to use her own words. In one of the most hostile regions in the world, she lives her life as she pleases. Weight loss transformation. Before the 13th season of the program premiered in 2019, Sue Aikens shocked viewers with a dramatic physical makeover. Sue, who humorously admits to being known as the chunky little monkey, used Instagram to inform her followers that she has shed a significant amount of weight this year, in order to prepare them for the drastic transformation. Fans were astounded and thrilled by her slimmer, more toned appearance when the season debuted. Social media was inundated with encouraging remarks from viewers who praised her commitment and her fresh, colorful appearance. Even though the change was evident, the question nevertheless persisted in everyone's thoughts. How did Sue Aikens shed about 75 pounds so quickly? Aikens claims that a combination of her practical necessities and personal objectives led her to decide to start a weight loss quest. As a woman nearing her 60s, she understood that improved mobility and health would be necessary to sustain her physically demanding and busy lifestyle in Alaska. In many interviews in 2019, she said that she set a goal for herself to improve her health over the course of 6 months. For Sue, being healthy meant more than simply looking good. It has to do with independence. She wanted to reduce the possibility of future troubles that may need her to leave her cherished Kavik River camp for metropolitan care, since, given the severe isolation of the Arctic, any medical concerns could become life-threatening. The timeless misery provided by previous wounds, especially from the well-known grizzly bear attack in 2007, that had negatively impacted her hips, was another factor driving her to change. An extra layer of accumulated physical stress had been caused by the enormous toll that years of survivalist living in the outdoors, fixing, transporting equipment, and enduring it alone had put on her body. She decided in late 2018 to make a complete commitment to living a healthy lifestyle, and she did it the Sue Aikens way: no shortcuts, no gimmicks, contrary to what some people had assumed. Aikens did not turn to weight loss surgery. Instead, she concentrated on maintaining an active lifestyle and eating well. Her chosen exercise regimen was effective for her older body and pre-existing ailments, and many camp tasks were completed by hand rather than by machine, thereby transforming survival labor into exercise. Although success gazed back at her metamorphosis, it was also laced with failure stories. After the cumulative wear and strain, Sue had lumbar surgery in March 2020. She shared on social media that she had stepped out of the hospital on her own initiative to share the news of her incredible recovery, demonstrating her unwavering spirit once more. She is an inspiration to all of her followers worldwide because she never stops pushing herself and staying active, whether it's shoveling snow, lugging supplies, or fixing machinery by hand. Power, tenacity, independence, and aging with dignity are all interwoven in this tale. However, losing the weight was just one part of a larger narrative that influenced her legacy. The legacy of Sue Aikens is inextricably linked to her work on the critically acclaimed National Geographic series Life Below Zero, in which she has maintained a prominent position since the program's 2013 premiere. Her untamed, self-sufficient way of living at Kavik River Camp, which is over 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle, enthralled viewers all around the world by providing an unvarnished look at actual wilderness survival. More than just a reality TV star, she rose to prominence as a symbol of tenacity and independence. And tenacity. The series' executive producers and showrunners have repeatedly recognized that Sue's presence was essential to the program's success and durability, and they commonly refer to the show as All Sue, just purely Sue, which reflects the profound influence she had on the cast and audience. Sue's impact was so potent because of both her emotional transparency and her fortitude in the face of Alaska's harsh climate. In addition to enduring physically taxing duties, fending off grizzly bears, sustaining severe injuries, and enduring frigid temperatures, she also utilized her position to openly discuss the psychological and emotional toll that such isolation takes. Her ability to strike a mix between vulnerability and unyielding grit made the program more relatable to viewers of all backgrounds. She became a voice for individuals marginalized by society, demonstrating that being alone need not be a sign of weakness, but rather that it may be liberating. The quiet maintained by Sue Aikens was unaffected by the 23 seasons produced by Life Below Zero. She has always been able to reveal the very true life she has led, whether it is through a health-related explanation of her own weight loss struggle, or a grand statement about her granddaughter's death. That is what has garnered her a great deal of respect and support from her fan base, many of whom follow her on Instagram, where she consistently shares images and thoughts from Kavik. In addition to seeing her on TV, the tribute episode about her granddaughter Drew is one of her most recent stories. It reveals her slow transition to semi-retirement. It reaches a profound depth here, signaling the end of one era and the beginning of another. Some of Life Below Zero's most memorable chapters still include Sue, even as the show switches up its chapters with new seasons and cast members. Her legacy is one of self-reliance, fortitude, and an obviously daring life lived on her own terms. What it means to survive in one of the most hostile locations on the planet, while dealing with physical, mental, and spiritual challenges, is redefined by new survival statistics. She will continue to leave a legacy for future generations in the field of survival-based television tales. When Sue eventually leaves the camera, her legacy will live on. Thank you for viewing. Please remember to leave a comment below with your opinions, and subscribe for more tales like this if you liked exploring Sue Aikens' amazing story. Also, don't go just yet. To continue the journey, click on the next video that appears on your screen. I'll see you there.